Hey everyone, can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Hey,
Yes.
my name is Matt Wren, and it's a privilege for me to be involved with the Georgia Tech Business Network and the mission of the Georgia Tech Business Network to connect alumni from Georgia Tech and others in the community with businesses in the community, and to continue to promote engagement, educational opportunities, and just opportunities to continue learning and to continue forming new networking opportunities for the community. So as the topic tonight, everybody is probably aware and has heard of the Beltline, but this has been an incredible project with a huge economic impact on the city of Atlanta. And whether you've heard about that or some of the other trails that are now connecting in and being planned to connect in with the Beltline, it's a very exciting thing for the city of Atlanta. And it's a privilege to have some of the organizers who are behind the scenes making these things possible, whether that be planning or engaging with the community or fundraising for various initiatives. So tonight, we've got Lynnette Reid, senior community planner with the Atlanta Beltline. We have Denise Starling, executive director with an organization called Livable Buckhead that is involved in a number of different things in Buckhead and with Path 400, a trail that connects or is planned to connect with the Beltline and runs along the right-of-way on Georgia 400. And that's another multi-use trail, as well as Patty Hansen. And Patty Hansen is the Director of Strategic Partnerships with both the city of Brookhaven, as well as another multi-use trail called the Peachtree Creek Greenway. And one thing that's really exciting about these trails is that a lot of them, that there are some shovel-ready projects, and there are others that are still being planned, but there are also very popular trails right now that if you're not aware of, we can share a little bit more, and you may learn about some new trails that you may be able to ride your bike on or go for walks or just enjoy in a variety of areas of the city. And it's also very exciting that these trails are connecting neighborhoods and different areas that have never been connected before this, at least to pedestrians. So first, I'd like to introduce Lynnette Reid. And Lynnette joined the Atlanta Beltline team as the community engagement advocate and now serves as the senior community planner. She has approximately 20 years of public sector experience and brings a wealth of experience related to community planning and engagement, land use, zoning, and regulatory development. Having worked with the Fulton County Department of Environment and Community Development for 8 years, and now the Atlanta Beltline for almost 10 years. Lynnette holds a BA in Public Administration from Trenton State College and a Master of City and Regional Planning from the Georgia Institute of Technology. So she is an alumnus herself, and as a native of New Jersey, she brings a unique perspective to her approach on planning. And for fun, she enjoys spending time at the park with her family and time with her husband and their 2 boys. So Lynnette, thank you for joining us. Next up, I'm going to introduce Patty Hansen. And Patty Hansen is the Director of Strategic Partners for the city of Brookhaven and for the Peachtree Creek Greenway. And as with a number of the panelists, Patty is involved in, it seems like, every different organization in Atlanta for planning trails and a lot of other exciting things with the Atlanta Regional Commission. So very, very glad to have you on, Patty. And Patty works with the Peachtree Creek Greenway with multiple stakeholders and state and federal officials to advance regional projects. So Patty knows all the movers and shakers, and Patty is a key player in helping structure how the fundraising works and planning some of these future trails. Her work on the Peachtree Creek Greenway included advancing legislation to allow for an increase in hotel and motel tax in order to finance a capital improvement bond that paid for the first phase of the Greenway and will provide federal matching funds for phase 2 and phase 3. This allowed the city to honor its commitment to construct the $30+ million multi-use trail without tapping property tax revenue. She worked closely with Senator Isaacson's office and multiple state agencies to gain the clearance to lift FEMA regulations allowing for the construction of the landmark Greenway Bridge and green space while protecting and improving the natural habitat. And as you will learn, Patty's involved in restoration of the Peachtree Creek in Brookhaven, which is exciting to see. It's kind of working to clean up and beautify some of these trails as places that we would really like to spend time on, and they've done a great job with that. And right now they're working on funding the last quarter mile of the Greenway, connecting it to path of the Peachtree Creek Greenway, connecting it to Path 400 and to the Beltline. And that's a great segue for our next speaker, or next panelist, Denise Starling. Denise Starling is, during her 20-year career in Buckhead, Denise has collaborated with business and community leaders to put the area on a sustainable path. The connection that I referenced back there was Denise is involved with Path 400, which comes from, I believe, from kind of the perimeter area, or we'll head up 400 towards perimeter or north, and it will eventually is planned to connect with the Beltline in an area right near where the Peachtree Creek Greenway will connect. So all of these different trails, it's kind of a hub and spoke concept where they're working together and building off the momentum that the Beltline has created. And perhaps that's not necessarily the order that it happened in, but it's exciting to see the connectivity between all these areas. Denise's work began with a focus on transportation and air quality issues as she led the formation of the Buckhead Area Transportation Management Association in 1999. And in 2011, Buckhead needed an organization to lead the implementation of its new green space plan, and Denise responded enthusiastically, forming Livable Buckhead. And Denise can tell us more about Livable Buckhead's mission and some of their accomplishments. But as of now, the Buckhead community boasts more than 19 million square feet of commercial building space, participating in the Atlanta Better Buildings Challenge, including 102 LEED projects. So these are environmental efficiency projects, I believe, and sustainability projects. Buckhead also has more than 63% of Buckhead is within 1 mile of electric vehicle chargers, and Buckhead has 34 new acres of green space. So great accomplishments. I look forward to hearing more, Denise. And Denise and Livable Buckhead have won numerous awards, more than 14 awards for exemplary programs and contributions, including being recognized by the Buckhead Business Association with their top award, Bullish on Buckhead, in 2009, and others as well. Denise is also an alumnus of Georgia Tech. Denise earned her undergraduate degree in architecture and a master's in city planning from Georgia Tech. And she is a graduate of the Leadership Buckhead Leadership Atlanta class of 2014. Denise and her son Will and husband Michael live in Brookhaven. Denise, it's great. And Denise, Patty, and Lynnette, it's great to have you all. I would love to ask each of you to help us understand a little bit about your organizations and speak to kind of what the mission and background of each organization is. And maybe Denise, if you could start, I'd love to hear about Livable Buckhead.
Sure, great. Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. I'm excited to be with all of my fellow fuzzy bees. So very happy to say that the Georgia Tech planning degree is an important one in the city of Atlanta. So tech supports tech. So keep going with that. But just to tell you a little bit about Livable Buckhead, I trip over the name every time I say it, even though I named it. So I'm just going to call it LBI from here on out. But our mission is basically rooted in sustainability, and it's all about making sure that Buckhead is the kind of place that people want to live and where businesses want to operate. So we're doing that with an eye towards the future, and our programming really falls into several different categories. Green space is really sort of our signature, with Path 400 really being the lead project there. We also operate the Buck Shuttle system, and we do a lot of community events and programming. We do water quality. We do all sorts of different things that are in that sustainability bucket, but we really do sort of bridge between neighborhood interests and commercial interests in the Buckhead community. So it's kind of all of those different things, and we really look for the opportunities that, really lead to quality of life.
Great. And was this concept, kind of something that you came up with, or were there other organizations that were struggling to find somebody that had the bandwidth and energy that you do?
So we actually were started in 1999 as the Transportation Management Association, and there's several of those throughout the region. And that was really because that was right when the time when Georgia 400 had just been put through. And so the community was, crazy worried about the traffic that was going to come from that. And so they created our organization to start dealing with that and working with employers to get people to do something other than drive alone and to create the shuttle system. So we did that moving ahead for several years. And in 2010 or so, we were doing a green space plan that was basically a headless beast. It has so much to it, including we need to add 106 acres of green space to Buckhead to get us up to acceptable levels of service. And so that was happening. And we also needed to shift our mission or our status to be a 501c3. So we were, could receive charitable funding. So all of those things were coming together at the same time. And there were a number of things that really needed doing that other organizations in this sort of civic realm of Buckhead weren't doing. So we sort of grabbed those all up, cobbled them together, created the mission out of it, and then created the organization in 2011 and never looked back.
Great. That's awesome. So the Path 400, I don't want to miscommunicate. What is the direction and the goal for the length of Path 400 and what neighborhoods might it connect?
So the original project came out of that green space plan I mentioned, and it was kind of interesting because at first we were just looking to connect our internal opportunities for parks. We were seeing that we had this huge parks need, and we weren't going to get one giant park. We didn't have any land where we could just pull all that together. And so we were really thinking about creating a network that was connecting those parks internally. But then as we started thinking bigger, we realized that our main connection was right along 400 and created a huge regional opportunity for us. So what the Path 400 does is actually connects to the Beltline right down by the Lindbergh MARTA station, heads all the way up the 400 corridor, and then goes outside of 285. So when you think about it, it opens the entire North Metro area to be able to access the Beltline. And so that part where we all come together down in Lindbergh, that's the money. When we're selling the project, that connection, having that access to all the different parts of town by not driving, that is huge. And so that's really the original concept is 5.2 miles, which actually stopped where the old toll plaza used to be on 400, but the project has taken on a life of its own. And Dunwoody, Sandy Springs came in and they took it from there, so up to the next piece. And so then, as it goes, Roswell and Alpharetta are continuing it as well. So wow. My part is only in the city of Atlanta, portion of it in Buckhead, but I'm working with the others too to take it as far as we can get it to go.
That's great. And I can imagine all the cyclists and walkers and runners out there are thrilled. I know that I've seen a lot of people out there, and I'm a cyclist and a former runner myself. So
fantastic. Well, with the one way we're a little different from the Beltline is we've got a lot of grade to deal with. So it's definitely not for the faint of heart cyclist. We've got some hills that are going to work you out. So you definitely want to keep that in mind. Unfortunately, we weren't a railroad bed that was nice and level. We've got amazing terrain that's happening along the way. So that's a key difference.
Well, thank you so much for the recap. And I would love to jump back to that after hearing from some of the other speakers.
Great.
Next, Patty, I would love to hear about the Peachtree Creek Greenway. And I've got some slides that if you want to start, I will try to pull some of the pictures that you've shared with me. But tell us about your organization and how you got involved and what you all do.
Well, I am, as you had mentioned, I am actually with the city of Brookhaven, and the city of Brookhaven is responsible for building the Peachtree Creek Greenway, which is a little bit different from the way the Beltline is being built out and the way Path 400 is being built out. We're working with groups, I know Denise well. I work with a lot of folks at the Beltline, and we work very closely with the volunteer group, the Peachtree Creek Greenway, Inc., who simply put, this would not be happening without them. When I refer to them, I say never, ever, ever underestimate the idea of an idea that the power of an idea that simply will not go away. The plan was passed over 20 years ago to build this, and the first mile opened in 2019 in Brookhaven.
Oh, wow.
And people were just relentless. People knew how important it would be. And that's how long it takes for some of these things. Or groups like the group that Denise was referring to in Buckhead, who started worrying about traffic. And that's where all this starts from. And I think an interesting thing you've got here is you've really got the three partners that make this happen here. You've got Denise's group, which started as an advocacy group. You have, a planner, Lynnette, who is, the heart and soul of actually getting it into the ground. And then I am the government who, in this particular picture, works out the financing and puts the partnerships and the deals together. Because a good multi-use trail is not an inexpensive thing to build. But there's actually great economic return people are starting to see now.
Great.
So if you want to just pop that map up, because I think a lot of people who know of the Greenway think of it as 1 mile in Brookhaven, but there's a map that shows.
I don't know where that came from. I'm looking for it right now here.
Yeah, that's it. I can see that's the top of it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. So the Greenway itself is 12.3 miles. The plan for the straight plan for the Greenway is 12.3 miles, and then it goes off into a couple directions into Doraville to the rails trails, and eventually they have figured out a way to get it under 285, which they're very excited about. So it starts down in Brookhaven in Atlanta on the west side at the confluence of the North Fork of Peachtree Creek and the South Fork of Peachtree Creek.
Is that right here?
Which is just a little bit if you go down to the Atlanta line on the left side, see the straight line just up and down, that's the Fulton County border and the Brookhaven Atlanta border. If you go just past that where it stops having those little red dots because it's not planned yet, that is the part of Peachtree Creek, the North Fork of Peachtree Creek that goes right into an Atlanta. And just to the left of that is where it will meet Path 400, we hope, within the next 36 months or so. And we'll link all of this to the Atlanta Beltline. That's a confluence where Path 400 and just down Denise can tell you how many, quarter mile down, not even down from that, you connect with the Beltline. And just south of that, you connect to the South Fork Conservancy trails, which are soft trails, more kind of nature trails, not these big multi-use trails that we're working on.
Great.
But I'll just do an advertisement quick. If you live in any of those areas, Peachtree Creek Greenway Inc. would love to have you join their volunteer committee and advocate for it. There's a lot of work to be done.
That's great. And I'm glad to hear. I was going to segue at the end to how people can get involved. But I know I actually came out one time, and it's a great way to meet people in the community. And they had some planting native species and removing non-native weeds from an area that was kind of beautifying a park near a neighborhood that I had never been to before. But it was really neat to see. A great way to get involved and meet people, and also learn about these trails that are coming and get involved with people that are, have similar interests and come from also a variety of backgrounds. So great opportunities. And
very true.
Patty, there are some sections that have been completed that people could go to now, correct?
Yes, right in Brookhaven. And Brookhaven is on the left-hand side of the map, if you're not a map reader. If you look at the Gold Park right there, in the center of Brookhaven beneath Buford Highway, that is the model mile that was completed. It's absolutely beautiful, if I do say so. And I didn't work on the construction, so I can brag about actually the Georgia Tech grad who was the project manager of it. It's actually amazing. And I think one of the things that's impressive about the Greenway is as you come out of Atlanta from the Beltline and Path 400, which have this, a great urban feel to them. You hit Brookhaven, and you are still really, you're right there in Metro Atlanta. Brookhaven has a very bit of a midtown feel to it in a lot of ways right down there, but it's also got a cultural complexity. That's Buford Highway, which is about I've heard this said, I would like to see the numbers on it. I think we compete a little bit with Clarkston, but about that most international mile of roadway in the United States of America. It's a really exciting spot. But next to it, and neglected for years and years, was this creek that was completely overgrown with kudzu and anything and everything you can imagine. And, a couple hundred tires whenever you were down to clean it out. It was really a disaster. And as a result of a lot of sewage spills, the water was heavily polluted. So one thing we did was we worked with the county, and we leveraged the work they were doing under the consent decree to fix the spills, rebuild the pipe. And as they went through and did that, they were doing it right in that first area. We very quickly accelerated our plans and got moving and building as quickly as we could. And that's going on all along the North Fork, and the city of Atlanta is doing the same thing as well.
Sorry, wrong slide.
Go ahead.
No, I've got a few, but I don't want to delay too much further, so we can circle back.
Right.
I mean, so exciting to hear, whether it's turning rails into trails, things that were underutilized, or areas that were just, not the prettiest areas, and beautifying them and really reducing any environmental risks as well. That's, making the city better for sure. Next, I would like to let Lynnette speak a little bit about the Beltline, which is just this huge, incredible impact on the city of Atlanta. But first, I do want to mention just a little Georgia Tech connection to plug in here for those who are not aware. The idea to turn the rail corridors from railroads to trails originated in 1999 with a master's degree thesis by Georgia Tech student Ryan Gravel. And Ryan founded the nonprofit Friends of the Beltline and currently works for Perkins and Will here in Atlanta. And Ryan was frustrated with the lack of transportation alternatives in Atlanta. And he and a few colleagues reached out to some influential Atlantans and city council member Kathy Woolard, and just were persistent and kept sharing their idea for how underutilized railroads could be converted to trails, and that there was a network that could connect all these different areas of Atlanta. And I'm sure Lynnette is the appropriate person to speak about all of this, but I just wanted to put a little shout out for another Georgia Tech alumnus, Ryan Gravel, for the idea and building momentum. And since then, it has, other organizers have come in and really done, been in the trenches, doing the heavy lifting for this. And so with no further ado, I'd love to introduce you guys, or ask Lynnette to tell us a little bit more about her organization and what they're up to now.
Sure. I think that's a really important story to start with, because the momentum, the dream, the effort to get it approved really came from the community, right? And Kathy Woolard, who was the city council president at the time, and Shirley Franklin, and it was that leadership that originally, bought into that from the community. So that's an important part of the project, is the community, because the idea was accepted first by them and then brought up to the larger, elected officials. And so I like to think of it as a mammoth of a project, right? It's not just trails in a great way, but it's also holistically, it's housing, it's brownfield remediation. A lot of times people forget about that as we go along the trail, we are also cleaning up a lot of old industrial use and contaminants. It's park improvements. There are designated Beltline parks where we either create a new park or improve existing park space. It's arts and culture. We have one of the largest temporary art exhibits on the Southeast, which was designed by our former director of design to get people actually out on the trail and experiencing it. Obviously, transit is a critical part of it. We want to be able to get to connect and have this interconnectivity throughout the city and the multi-use trails. And so we balance all of those goals every day, right? And so that becomes the great challenge of each day. And the trail component of it is pretty significant. If you can put up the map, I can kind of show you where we are right now. One of the things that I love about how we approach trails specifically, because we could talk all night on any one particular element of the Beltline, but trails specifically, one of the things that there's always something going on, something that's either in planning, in design, it's heading to construction, is being acquired. There's always some momentum that you don't see. And specifically, one of the things that we like to do is, while we may not have the money yet to construct it, we like to get it into an interim state to get people comfortable and out on it and to begin to embrace it as their own. And so when funding becomes available in certain segments, you're already familiar with it. You're already acquainted with where to get off at, et cetera. And so we do a lot of interim trails until we're ready to actually have the funding to activate and move through constructions. And one big component that I overlooked is just the economic development that comes from trails, right? It was projected that at the end of the 30-year project, we would be at $10 billion in private investment. And I think we're like somewhere in the area of like 7 already. So the drivers that come from private development around trails and the activity that it brings, whether it's, I think infrastructure is a driver just in general for economic development, creative placemaking is, and then you add workforce and talent and skill sets, and it just makes for a great economic development opportunity. But I do want to show you our map, Matt, if you can put that up. So yeah, you can see what's in motion right now at the Beltline. I could talk about it later as well, but many of you may have also heard that we are going through the city process and done education around a special service district to help us close some funding gaps to finish the trail and to help unlock dollars for other economic development benefits. But once Matt pulls up that map.
Oh, can you not see it right now?
I don't. Does
Okay.
anybody else see it? Okay, well, I'll keep talking.
No.
So not yet.
Okay, let me look for it.
Okay, so we just completed, like Patty said, there's constant collaboration. We do a lot with the PAD Foundation. We just completed what we call the Westside Beltline Connector Trail. And it starts at Northside and Boone and goes northwest up to Jefferson, Donnelly Hollowell and West Marietta Boulevard. And that's about 3 miles. We have a segment that's under construction right now, just behind Ansley Mall, a little bit north to Westminster area. That's phase 1 that Georgia Power is doing. I think phase 2 will take us a little bit beyond that. We also on the south side, I know one of the, I think it was Claire who said someone lives off of a South Side Trail. So our South Side Trail is in interim condition right now. And if you're asking like, where's the South Side Trail? So the South Side Trail starts at Bill Kennedy Way and Glenwood Avenue and follows the rail corridor southeast all the way to University Avenue, just a little past Metropolitan where those two intersect. There you go.
Oh, you can see that now?
Yeah, we can see.
Okay, sorry for the delay.
No. And I'm gonna try to use the annotate function. Let me see. I've never used it before. Let's try. So this is the area I was talking about a moment ago behind Ansley that's under construction. A part of it is being done by Georgia Power. They had some work to do out there. And that was another collaboration. And so as a part of their work, they're building that segment as well. And then a later segment, phase 2, will kind of take us right here. We are doing some interim safety conditions at I-20 and Bill Kennedy Way. And if you live in that area, you know, it gets a little weird. You're coming down Bill Kennedy Way and then you come across, you're on the trail, on the trail, which is outside of the corridor. And you kind of get into on the bridge over I-20 and it gets really narrow. And so we're doing some improvements there so that cyclists and pedestrians are safe. The segment that's under construction right now is this right here. It starts at just a little bit beyond I-75 and goes west along University up until Aline Avenue, which is where the West Side Trail currently exists. And the segment that I was referring to in collaboration with the Path Foundation is right here. And this is the Westside Beltline Connector Trail. And that goes from Marietta Boulevard down into Joseph E. Boone Boulevard and Northside Drive, which is really unique about this particular one because it also will connect in this area and give you a short walk to the Westside Quarry Park, which is under the provisions of the city. The city's actually leading the park improvements. I'm told phase 1 will be open sometime this summer. Again, in collaboration with the Path Foundation at West Marietta Boulevard, along Marietta Boulevard, just north of West Marietta Street to Huff Road. We're actually going to start building that in the next month, and that'll be mainline trail. And so what you'll be able to conceivably do is come from Boone Boulevard down up to Marietta Boulevard, connect in here to the Westside Quarry Park. The Peachtree Creek Greenway is over here as well. We're currently in design for this segment right here. And that'll be several, 12 to 18 months of design work in this area of the Westside Trail. And this is where the Westside Trail ends. And so this would take us north up into that confluence of the Westside Connector Trail and the new mainline trail. And yeah, so there's a lot going on in the Beltline. Those are all the new segments that are under construction as we speak. The purple areas are what's in design. And, we like to approach it like to be design ready. And so that as funding becomes available, whether that's philanthropic, whether that's grant, local, state or federal, that we're ready to proceed. And so that's kind of our organization in a nutshell as it relates to the trails. But I always like to go back, because that's the planner in me and the community engagement person, is that it's about people, right? And this project connects 65 plus different neighborhoods that have been historically disconnected. And so our job is to connect them in the most equitable way and keep legacy residents in their homes and mitigate displacement through a variety of different strategies so that it is truly a Beltline for all.
That's great. And Lynnette, I was talking to you yesterday and looking at some things I saw on the Beltline's website, and there were some funding plans and a lot of creative thinking in terms of how to help people that live in certain neighborhoods stay there. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all.
Sure. I know one of the questions I thought was interesting that in preparation for this was about COVID. And one of the things I'll speak to that specifically, that our sister organization is our version of Patty. That's the Beltline Partnership. Rob Bronner leads that, and he is our philanthropic he's in charge of philanthropic efforts. And so we work in partnership with them a lot. And through those partnerships, we've had collaborations with the Atlanta Volunteer Legal Association. And so we were able to help disseminate and connect people to CARES dollars. Through his efforts, we got some pilot monies from the Georgia Power Foundation and Bank of America to start an initial legacy retention fund. And that's to help legacy residents stay in their homes when property taxes increase, and so that they're able to have this fund to kind of help offset those costs. We've done a lot of collaboration with Strive Atlanta, and really excited about them, especially during COVID, because people have been experiencing job transitions or out of work. And so Strive Atlanta is a free virtual training experience, and they train you in livable wage jobs. So like the cohort that they just had in January focused on logistics, landscape engineering, office management. So things that could be sustainable for not just an individual, for a family. What else? We have a partnership with Juvo Jobs to help people find local work. But then we also do a series of workshops on different things, right? Whether it's our recent one is taking advantage of the homestead exemption. We show people how to, what are your rights as tenants, as renters. So there's a whole host of things that are being done around that. The special service district that we're looking at, if it's passed by City Council next week, will allow us to actually fund that retention fund at a larger measure into the order of something like $12 million. So we're constantly forming partnerships through the Beltline Partnership, our sister organization, in neighborhoods to really address some of those needs as well.
Great. And I have to say, a personal anecdote is that when you've got friends coming in from out of town, and if you have an opportunity and think, hey, what's an exciting thing that they may not know about here in Atlanta, it's really fun to take them out to the Beltline and to see, the energy there with people. I mean, I've seen bikers, e-bikes, scooters, people jogging and running, and just you guys could speak a little bit about the impact with small businesses around there, but a lot of industrial buildings that previously kind of had their back facing a railroad now have, patios where you can have a meal overlooking this kind of, it's almost like riverfront environment where everybody's kind of doing some people watching, and there's healthy, activities going on with a linear park, and there's free yoga classes that are available. And a lot of the parks around there kind of are building off of the momentum, and small businesses and others are kind of realizing this is a new opportunity to connect people and to turn the front of these buildings, to flip the buildings around so they face the Beltline, and it's really neat to see.
Yeah, and I would add to that, so a couple of things. A lot of times when people come to Atlanta, they think that Ponce City Market is the Beltline, right? So there's so many more elements of the Beltline to experience, and small businesses have definitely come along the Beltline. But I would also say that there's been some great businesses that have existed. So what this also does is create an opportunity to enjoy the businesses on the Beltline, but then get off at an access point and enjoy some of the local districts, right? Whether it's Little Five Points or Inman Park or West End or different ones. It's connecting all of these, existing thriving districts now to this larger corridor that kind of expands the user's experience to a lot of different other businesses that they probably would not have had a chance to, experience. But in terms of design, because I also help coordinate our design review committee, I will tell you that anybody's directly adjacent to the Beltline, they're all activating their backs, like the backside. I mean, they all want to capture, the people coming off the trail from a lot of different, whether it's work, whether it's office. We see some more. We got a couple of Class A office buildings now on the Beltline. Whether it's recreating or just to get to work or pick up something in your everyday, a neighborhood, something that you need to grab. You go on the Beltline and get to your famous, the store that you're most comfortable with and come on home. So people are using it a lot of different ways, and the small businesses, I think, have been instrumental in that.
That's great. Well, it's exciting for neighbors as well, non-businesses that are just finding ways. A lot of people want to be able to get out and exercise and get to other parks and other parts of town. And it's neat to find places that all of a sudden have access to coffee shops, whereas previously there may have been a busy intersection with fast moving cars and some of the networks. Atlanta's known for having a great transportation network, whether that be, founded on railroads or, just these major interstates and others that all come through Atlanta and our port on the coast. But now taking, some of those have, for certain neighborhoods, it's been hard to get to the other side of that. But with these trail connections, it's really opened that back up. And it's amazing to see just the number of people that have shown up. And you can see that there was a real unmet demand for it before, and now it's being realized.
Matt, I think one thing I'd like to add on that is actually something the Beltline does a great job of that we're trying to emulate as well, is the need for programming. A lot of that experience that you're talking about isn't just there. It takes a lot of effort to put that in place and create the programs and the activities that go along with the trail itself to give you that reason to come out. And that's one thing we've definitely seen, is you have to do that to get people to kind of come out and explore it and understand, to create that sort of the different mix of folks that are going to come out and take part in it. And so that's something that we certainly didn't know was such a big component of what we needed to do, but it's literally teaching people where it is and how to use it and what they can do while they're out on it. And if you add beer, that's always good.
I was going to actually add to that because the Greenway, from seeing the experience of the Beltline and working so closely with Path 400, the city of Brookhaven is currently appointing their Arts and Culture Commission, and Denise recalls we developed a plan, a 20-year arts and culture plan, and part of that is working with Chambly to name Buford Highway Cultural Corridor, but really the backbone, the spine of that, a lot of that is going to be what happens on the Peachtree Creek Greenway, because that's where the art's going to happen. We had planned a couple events that unfortunately are not happening this year, but it will come roaring back. And it was designed with art in mind, which was an advantage we had. Watching the Beltline and watching Path 400 sort of build it into it, we were able to, when we looked at our retaining walls, we were saying, no, we're going to have art on that. And we need this wider, and this needs to be an event space. So it's such an integral part of your community and your visitors. It's really, that piece is so important.
That's great. And, people have all different interests. So bringing a diverse group of people together, I mean, there's no telling in terms of communication and open up dialogue and opportunities to meet people from different backgrounds and learn from their experience. I mean, it's great in terms of engagement and just, opportunities for creativity to come together in ways we don't even know what those will be in the future. Denise, what is this incredible wall behind you? Is that on Path 400?
It is, yes. That's Patty did a great segue to that. The art is so important, and I think Beltline does a fantastic job of this as well. And it's part of what creates the unique experience along the way. We've got a number of different opportunities for where we've done murals like this, and some that are temporary, some that are more permanent. But this wall is my favorite. It actually was done by our Atlanta artist Jonesy and Krista Jones, and it's highlights the area that is it literally is right in the middle of the highway, the MARTA rails, the Norfolk Southern freight rails, and then you've got a detention pond that has become a complete wetland. And so that mural really celebrates that diversity of things that you've got there. It's the coolest part of the trail because all of that stuff is going on, and then you can sit there and watch, the snakes and the beavers in the pond. And it's kind of amazing to find that kind of experience right in the middle of the city, much less next to the highway.
Absolutely. I mean, it's so neat. And it reminds me I've been inspired in the past by hearing, about the painted graffiti walls in Miami and other kind of world-class cities, and thinking about, taking artists, which usually it's, you have to go in the past, you may have had to go to a museum or seek out their work, but to go and put it in this most public places and inspire people in ways to, think differently and creatively. And I know that there's a number of movements on the office space design and other things where people are planning more collaborative floor plans and things where people can come together, use their laptops now, or walk around and just get some different stimulation. And there are a lot of people who are creative that go to Georgia Tech or to SCAD or other places with all the universities and schools in Atlanta. And it's a great draw for these types of people who are very smart to kind of come be inspired and see some different sites that can, that will attract a lot of talent here to Atlanta.
That's
And
also
the only thing I would add,
go ahead.
This is great. We like talking about art. One of the things that we do too for developments that occur along the Beltline, in an instance where we feel like, oh, you had a blank wall, why don't you consider a mural? So we try to encourage developers, and we're seeing more of them too, activate their own spaces and using murals as architectural treatments, as staples to kind of create a sense of place in specific areas too. So
That's one of the things that Lynnette and I have in common too, is the relationship of development and our role in development as it comes into play with our trails. We both are, head up our what's called development review committees that are essentially all of the major development that's coming through in our areas. We have the opportunity to work directly with those developers and shape those projects. And that's incredibly important because developers really want to know what you want them to do. So we found that to be amazingly helpful, to just create that conversation, give them ideas of what you're looking for, talk about, well, could you activate the back of this development differently because the trail's coming right here and you're going to regret it if you don't. You can have those conversations and they're open and receptive to it. And that's actually, I think, probably one of the most important pieces of the role that I have in Buckhead. And I'm sure Lynnette would probably agree that their influence on design, and how it embraces the Beltline is critical.
Totally agree.
Absolutely.
Well, I've done a lot of talking, and I would love to open up the forum for participants that have questions for you all. And I think Claire can help us with some question and answers here for the audience to be able to learn what they're really interested in from you all.
Thank you, Matt. I'm Claire. I'm on the GTBN board as well. And I did get one question that hasn't been answered so far. And the question was, I live close to the Silver Comet Trail, and one of the challenges users have had over the years has been security. As the Beltline expands or any of the other trails expand, how are security concerns being addressed? So let's start with Lynnette.
Sure. So there's a couple of things. The Atlanta Police Foundation, we got a grant a couple of years ago, and so we have what we call the Path Force. So it's a special patrol that helps to patrol the corridor and certain Beltline parks. So that's part of it. We also we had to go back and retrofit the East Side Trail with cameras, et cetera, a couple of years ago or within the last year or two. But now we build in lights and security cameras into all of our construction packages. And those security cameras are linked into the city's overall VIC system so that the police can kind of know what's going on. And then we always have etiquette campaigns going about safety and governing yourselves on the trail. So that's primarily how we approach it. And then the sheer volume sometimes of people on the trail helps to kind of eyes on the trail kind of helps police itself as well. But those are just a few of the things that we do.
Okay, great. Well, that's good. How about you, Denise? Anything?
We're doing the same types of things. So we also have cameras that are hooked into the Video Integration Center as well as with MARTA. We have the added complexity of being on MARTA property. So they have a lot of requirements with fences and being to shut down their property, for Homeland Security. So there's a lot of attention to it that way. And then, as Lynnette said, eyes on it, the safer, the more people that are out there using it, the safer it is. That's just like the most easiest solution you could possibly have. And there are also things in the design that you don't realize that we've thought about. There's a whole kind of series of design principles where you don't do stupid things like, create corners that you can't see around and create areas where someone could sneak up on you. Those things are all thought through when you're designing. And we had several times when we were walking the corridor and doing that design as the woman of the group, they would be like, well, do you feel safe here? And I'm like, no. Okay, so we got to do something different. And we had a lot of those kind of conversations. And that even goes with physical design in terms of like safety, not just your personal safety, but from injury. We had a situation where our design was actually showing that we were going to tee into one of the local roads. And as a mother, I was picturing my then 7-year-old on his bike getting out of control, going right into that traffic. So we redesigned the whole thing, based on that. So there are a lot of things like that go into it.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. And that's a good point that I wouldn't have even thought about that. Like safety also includes ensuring that the pedestrians stay safe on the trail itself.
The thing I also love is art, believe it or not, is a safety feature. So when you call, if you have a heart attack on the trail and you call 911, you're more likely to remember being near a key feature that's a piece of art than you are which mile marker you just passed. So that is something I love because it's an added way to sell, the need for including art.
Yeah, no, I agree. You could definitely would remember what's behind you. So, well, Patty, any thoughts on security on your?
I really don't want to take up too much time on this because you guys have answered it beautifully. The specs for the Peachtree Creek Greenway include lighting. So that's one of the best deterrents. The second, as absolutely usage. That's as soon as people start using it, it becomes infinitely safer. We went through all the same design, so I won't go into that, but there was a full public safety review of our design before it was finalized. And that is critical. And it comes down to, you can't put a tree there. It's going to grow too wide and someone won't be, it is so carefully examined because it needs to be, it's the right thing to do. And yeah, we had the designers were convinced it'll be okay. We'll put in a hawk signal. We were building, they were going to put in a crosswalk at one road. And we went over there and I'm telling you, people were under the bridge and we were calling GDOT and saying, we're going to go under the bridge. Is this going to work? And it added a lot of time. It added a lot of expense, but you never compromise on pedestrian safety. I think that's at the forefront of everyone's mind while we're doing this. And it's a big part of the budget. So I have to think about it a lot as well.
Hey, can I jump in real quick? I didn't mean to cut you off, but Patty, there is a slide that is a great slide that you sent, and I meant to drop it in before. So
Sure.
If you want to just share a little bit, this is the connection point between the three trails.
I need to know which one it is. Yes, we can all talk about this.
Can you all see this?
Yep.
Yes.
So this is, oh good, my cursor's working. Okay, this illustrates better why we're all here. This red is the Atlanta Beltline that is going to come up to just about almost to the confluence of the Peachtree, almost to the North Fork Peachtree Creek Trail. The yellow is Path 400. The blue are the nature trails of the South Fork Conservancy. And right here is the North Fork Peachtree Creek, and the Peachtree Creek Greenway runs along there. So very soon, I mean, in government terms and design terms, very soon, this is going to come together. And anybody who is going to be on this trail is going to be able to go up and get to the Lindbergh MARTA station, which is really a critical part of all our planning. We haven't talked about it, but transit is a big deal. These trails are providing last mile connectivity for people. And if you look at affordable housing in Atlanta, one of the things that moves the needle for Atlanta and puts us sort of from the middle of the pack down closer to the bottom is the cost of commuting and the cost of owning a vehicle. So these are real impacts, but also from a recreational standpoint, it's very nice from an exercise standpoint, and just simply from getting from one side of the highway to another without having to drive. If you take a look at that, it's going to have a huge impact. This is about to be let for construction. You guys had someone on here had a very good question about what it means when we refer to something as being in design. Okay. And this has gone through design, planning, and engineering. It's about to be let for construction. This piece is also, believe it or not, an Atlanta water and sewer project that they're working the trail into.
Hey, Patty, I cannot see your cursor. Can you describe what color you're referring to?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, the bright green piece, right below Lindbergh,
Yes,
is about to be let for construction. So that's the very end of the long thing, and it's what people usually see. They don't know everybody's out there designing and drilling holes and seeing where we can build stuff. That's about to be let for construction, and that was really the biggest obstacle with connecting all these trails. I consider it to be the biggest because it's on the North Fork, so it was my problem. But really getting through, if you look at those roadways, getting through there was really an issue. And we're really pleased that funding for that came out of a state grant that the South Fork Conservancy got. And that will bring the North Fork Trail over to Path 400, which is yellow, and the Beltline, which is red. Can you see that? Okay.
Question, will your trail like be connected to MARTA? I'm not sure where MARTA is, or if
Yes.
Denise.
So we're going to do across Morosco, which is, I'll see if I can annotate on here. Connection right here. That's going to go, the MARTA station is right in here.
I see it.
Perfect. You did it.
And then we also connect directly to the Buckhead station, which is up off the screen here.
And to jump in on the transit issue, because it really is a big part of this, the Buford Highway bus line is the most traveled in the entire MARTA system. So much so that there are gypsy buses that go up and down there because there simply aren't enough buses. In addition to that, one of the state's largest centers of employment is being built right off of Buford Highway. If you're annotating, can you do Showa over there? Children's Hospital of Atlanta, I think probably soon to be renamed the Arthur Blank Hospital of Atlanta, is moving from their location, their main campus location over there. And that is the largest hospital development going on in the country right now. And as we all know, it's a huge center of employment. The I-85 interchange is being rebuilt and it will be walkable and will connect to the Greenway. So transit matters. We need to think about that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Lots of good.
That answered one of your questions in the chat too.
You did. And
yeah, I hope I did.
Yeah, no, you did. And thank you, Lynnette, for answering another in the chat. I think one more question, if you could just, there's only one more question left, is if there's going to be restroom facilities built along any of the trails, and if not, what do you recommend? A fun question to end the night.
I know.
The what do you recommend is a key part.
That sewer project in Atlanta, I want to work on.
Right.
We typically don't, unless you're adjacent to a park. We don't build restrooms.
We have
unless you're again next to one of our parks that already has a bathroom.
We had a lot of controversy about that. Honestly, when we were doing the design and original plans, the things that were the biggest issues for us were restrooms and parking, and nobody wanted any of those remotely near them. But then now, people are like, well, you need to include them. So it's one of those things that people are worried that they cause a security issue. So it's definitely a challenge. I think the more you have stops though along the way, that all of us go through a commercial center where you are, to Lynnette's earlier point, you are getting your trail users and trying to draw them into the businesses along the way. So not saying I'm necessarily suggesting that you just pee along the way, but it's
a little less water,
It's definitely, there are opportunities because of the public nature, of the businesses that do back up to it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And if anything, it brings more business to the businesses, more economic growth. Yeah.
You have to work with what's there.
Yeah, I like that. Well, at this time, I'll turn it back over to Matt to say our goodbyes.
Yes, thank you guys so much. I'm really looking forward to the next phases and using them as personally with my family, and also bringing people in from out of town and sharing all the exciting things that are coming to Atlanta, especially, knowing that these are all pedestrian friendly things and that there's, really creative restaurants and artwork and all kinds of talking points to show off when they come to Atlanta. So that's great. And I'm also looking forward to, learning how I can get involved. So if there's anything that we can do in terms of, I think a few years ago was a meetup that I found a way to get involved in kind of as a volunteer. Or if there are, I think Lynnette, you had mentioned that there's some publicly accessible virtual meetings that people could kind of town hall style meetings. Is that right?
Yeah,
Lynn?
I dropped that in the link to get Beltline updates. And our newsletter includes everything from, you know, our Friday virtual workouts to now any public meetings that we have. So I think that's a great way to stay plugged in. And then we also have volunteers on our Beltline partnership side, and I'll drop a link for that as well.
Great. And likewise for the other organizations. And since we are running out of time, if you all want to email us any ways that people can get involved, and maybe we can distribute that out to the participants that signed up. But I think we'd really like to be a part of the solution and part of the vision for going forward. And it's, an ever kind of evolving concept of what this is and how broad the impact is. And if you walk along the Beltline and just see, the incredible architecture in certain areas and the restaurants and kind of outdoor patios and everything, it's really created a lot more public gathering spaces that are incredible assets for the city of Atlanta. So anything we can do to help would be great. And I appreciate all of you guys spending, all of our panelists. Thank you all for informing us, bringing us up to date on some of the exciting things you guys are doing. And just so thankful for all of the work and time and energy that you all and so many other volunteers have put in for these awesome projects. So thank you. And one other thing I just wanted to mention is being involved in the Georgia Tech Business Network. We have a number of events that we're continuing to plan. So this was one, and this is kind of an opportunity to learn about an interesting set of projects here in Atlanta. But we are also planning other opportunities. And in the pre-pandemic world, a lot more events were in person. Having the virtual events allows for an opportunity for a lot broader audience to participate in, whether they be in Atlanta or, other areas of the state or in the country. So we have several other events that are more networking format events that are coming up, and we will be sending out information on those soon as we work and plan those. But plenty of opportunities, whether you're looking to network, to meet other Georgia Tech alumnus, to meet people in the Atlanta business community. We love connecting people and the opportunities that these events create. I've met great people at every one. I continue to be involved, and I think it's an opportunity that we can really leverage with all the energy of people from Georgia Tech, from organizations and businesses that are not involved directly at Georgia Tech, and kind of connecting those dots. So look for some emails coming from the Georgia Tech Business Network. Would love to meet you and have you get involved. But thank you so much for your time. And I'm excited to, at some point, get out and explore these paths as they come our way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.